Hello, everyone. I just want to say welcome to day 5. It's hard to believe we've been together for 6 days. How amazing in this, and all about sugar detoxing so that you get to feel like your best self. You wake up every day and you don't feel like this heavy, dark cloud is over the top of you and just, the sugar causing like exhaustion. So today we're going to wrap up, but I want to just start with asking if anybody has any questions at all. And also, as you're all popping in right now, just let me know where you're from and say hi, and I'll pop back and say hello. And, on this Memorial Day weekend, I'm just grateful that you are showing up for detoxing sugar. So if you have any questions before we get started, but I'm just super, super pumped to be here with you because I know how important the health journey is for you. And, it can feel super difficult when we're living in a world of grab your food, processed foods. I was just reading the other day that, millennials are, no judgment again, but they're one of our fastest growing. They just want to grab food on the run and they don't want to prep and prepare their food. So that can be a challenge for us, right? If we're just grabbing food on the run, unless, we're grabbing fruits and vegetables and those sorts of things. So I'm not seeing any questions right now. So let's go ahead and just jump in. And hi, Jacqueline. So great to have you here again. Hello, everybody. Everybody, I can't keep track of what's happening over on Instagram, but just welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're going to talk about how to live sugar free and what that means to be healthy and ways that you can actually start creating an eating strategy that works for you. So I want to ask you, as you've been on this journey since Monday and you've been hearing me show up and speak for all of you, like I love to do generously, is there anything, or have you been experiencing any cravings? Like, have any cravings come up for you that when you're trying to maybe adjust your macros, or your typical go to was a cracker, cookie, or ice cream, or something in that avenue? Has there anything that is there any challenges that you've been experiencing? Because that's pretty typical when I work with patients on changing their nutrition, because the reality is we're all creatures of habit, right? And we show up and we're patterned. And so we get into these patterns. And one of the reasons why I went through all the steps that I went through is it's breaking that pattern. It's really breaking that pattern. And if you've been having sugar cravings, drop in the comments. Have you figured out what's causing them? Is it really truly hunger? Is it emotions? Like what comes up for you when you actually have these cravings? So it's essential to consider all of your lifestyle factors that can be influencing the cravings, whether it's emotional or you didn't sleep well last night. When I don't sleep and I'm tired, I might want to lean towards a food that's easier to break down, and I need that boost of energy right away, so I may choose a more, a carb food or whatnot, rather than a plain filled food like a protein and fat that will carry me further. So some of the factors I'm thinking about, like I mentioned, is sleep. Exercise. If you're exercising super hard and you're on a cardio machine and you haven't eaten enough, and you get off the machine and your body's all of a sudden, I want the sugar, and there's not enough stores in there. Call them glycogen stores. There's not enough glucose. Your body's going to want to crave sugar. The other big one that stands out for me is stress levels. When we're under regular stress or emotional stress, it can be challenging where we want to show up and eat that food because we might not feel as well. and we not might not feel so good about ourselves that we're like, I'll just eat this. It doesn't matter. I'll deal with it later. So if that's any of you, drop a me in the chat. Like, do you struggle with this sort of eating behavior? Okay, I don't see anybody yet. So it looks like you guys are all tracking well and you're really connected to the process. So that's amazing. So, how do you deal with your sugar cravings and temptations? So, first, you want to start by focusing on the aspects related to blood sugar. So, I call it the carbohydrate tipping point. So, you get to figure out the right amount of carbohydrates that your body needs for daily support, for your energy to actually function and to manage your cravings. And once you figure that out, you can go up a little bit when you need it or go down a little bit, but it's like really knowing that carbohydrate tipping point. What am I thinking? Not too much, not too little, but just perfect. I know there's a fable around that. And I can't think of it right now, but that's where you get to tweak so that you can assess what works for you. Then you want to look at foods that are impacting you. Like pay attention for particular foods that could affect your hunger, your energy, and your cravings. Remember, we talked about that. And you really want to be aware of that. So when you're eating and you're thinking a food is causing a certain emotional release, maybe it's mood, maybe it's stress level or sleep patterns. To identify these patterns and triggers, that's where it came in. Like you want to chart how you're feeling. So if you chart how you're feeling, then you're aware of what foods are causing cravings for you. Does that make sense? Like that's so imperative. And there's so many moods and emotions that draw us into the food that we desire to eat. We're not even aware of it because we're just, going on the run and eating. So, weekly hunger, energy, and cravings assessment is another important tool that you can utilize that I have my patients utilize. What it looks like is once a week, you can rate your hunger, your energy, and your cravings on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means you don't have any hunger cravings or it's low, minimal, and 10 means the cravings are super high. So, what you want to do is aim to keep your hunger cravings below 4 and your energy levels above 7. So, I want you to look at both of those or all 3 of those: hunger, energy, and cravings, and just rate them maybe once a week. And if that feels like a lot, twice a week. Like my goal is never to give you tools that are going to cause stress and that are not going to allow you to step into healing. My goal is to give you tools that will help you stay on track. So as we're further supporting your journey, I want to talk about some tools that some came out in the email today that we sent you, your day 5, your final day 5 challenge email. Um, and I want to talk about some tools that I use for blood sugar to help measure yourself and also like to actually look at your body composition so you're aware of your body changing, because as we start to see numbers adjust and numbers go down and not go up, it gives us that elation and that motivation to keep going, right? So when we're feeling really good and we're like, oh, this is working, this is success, all of us have it, it's mindset, then we want to keep going. Like maybe you went on a 2-mile walk today and you felt great, or you finally went to the gym because you're just like, I'm just going to start going. And now you're starting to feel stronger. It's the same thing when we measure and we track, that's where we get success. So some of the ways that I have individuals measure their progress is through weight, fat loss, body measurements, and then I'm going to talk about some tools that are also good for you to look at if you're feeling like, or from your numbers after meeting with your doctor, that you're possibly heading towards prediabetes, diabetes, or even insulin resistance. You're having high and low blood sugars, which will happen in the beginning form. So you have, remember when we talked about it on Monday, you have that high blood sugar, low blood sugar, high blood sugar, low blood sugar. Then the pancreas becomes insulin resistant. And you're in that state for about 10 to 12 years before you're actually probably diagnosed with prediabetes first and then diabetes. Or sometimes we're seeing patients like full blown on diabetes because they didn't know what to look for symptoms, but all of you are now well educated, so you're going to know what to look for symptoms. So we're going to talk about body composition analysis as well. And the first thing I want to talk about is something that you don't have to buy unless you don't have a tape measure, but I'm sure you all have a string, and I'm all sure you all have some way of actually measuring yourself, or, from sewing that you could actually use to measure. So I suggest measuring one time per month, because if you try to measure two short increments, the body may not change in that time frame. So the first thing that we want to talk about is measuring right around the chest, all the way around, right? So in this area, and it's actually in the email as well, and it shows you how to measure. There's a standing person, and it actually shows you what points to look for, but it's around the mid part around the bust. Then right underneath your arms and underneath your shoulders and your elbows, you want to measure the waist. So it's, women are usually 1 inch above the belly button, and then men measure right at the belly button. That's the difference. So again, women measure about 1 inch above the belly button, and if you're a man, you want to measure right at the belly button. And then the hips are going to be the widest part of your glutes. I know you can't see me in the way I'm sitting, but like if we put your hands down, and that's going to be the widest part of your glute. And then your thighs, it's going to be the midpoint between the lower part of your glutes and your knees, your widest part of your thighs. And then calves, the last one. So I've got 6 that I want you to measure. Is going to be, the calf is going to be halfway between your knee and your ankle. So measure those, make a chart. You can do a hand chart. You don't have to be fancy like a computer chart. If some of you are feeling like I'm on the computer all the time like I do, you could actually make it on the computer, print it out, or just write it out by hand. But if you're measuring that one time per month and you start to see it decrease, then you'll start to know that you're losing abdominal fat, or you're losing fat around the arms or around the thighs or calves. So that's one way to measure and to evaluate. And the reason why I'm sharing this is, remember when we talked about on Monday, if you're eating too much sugars and the muscles don't need it, it turns into fat. And that's how we actually gain weight, if we have too much carbs in the body. So when I'm looking to weigh, I don't just weigh myself. I actually use a smart scale. And at the clinic, I also have a body impedance analysis, which does it in a similar fashion. But if you look into smart scales, there's gonna be a way on that smart scale. There's anywhere from 10 to 20 readings. They're getting super fancy now. Whereas the readings that I really look at is, the pounds is fine. The BMI is okay, but it doesn't really tell me your health. But what really tells me your health is your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, your bone mass, and the percentage of water in your body. That's actually more knowledge for me than actually the weight. Why? How many of you know really truly that muscle weighs more than fat? So if you're at the gym and you're working out, that's why the measurements are so perfect, because as you're building muscle, you're burning fat, and that fat on you is like decreasing. And so that's why it's great to have all sorts of measurements, and not just to have your weight, because you could be going to the gym, decreasing your fat, but your weight could be going up. And if your weight's going up, that could be muscle mass. So seriously, keep that in mind. I know that's a point that a lot of people make, and that's why just weighing a number is not great. And when I work with patients and I have them set their targets and goals, we're wanting to increase their muscle mass, increase their bone mass, decrease their fat mass, make sure their water is in a good point, and then weight and BMI come last. What BMI measures is just your height to weight ratio. That's it. So it's a number that's been used for years for health, but it doesn't really tell me if you're healthy or not. Like, we want to take in all these other factors that we're talking about. Okay, so there's two other ways that I go a little bit deeper that we can measure with individuals so that we know. Let's talk about blood sugar first. So you could prick your finger and take your blood sugar every day. And you could take it preprandial, means before food, or postprandial, after food. You could take it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You could just take it fasting before you eat. There's all sorts of ways to do that. However, there's an amazing tool on the market now that came out. I can't even tell you because I don't know the exact date or year, but it's called a continuous glucose monitor. And it actually goes behind in this area of your arm, and you wear it. And what it does is it tells you throughout the whole entire day if your blood sugar's up, if your blood sugar's down, if it's stabilized. You just have to scan it, I think, every 5 to 6 hours or so, or maybe it's after 8 hours because it won't read it. You have to scan it with your phone. And that way you can really see the trend of your sugar. So I actually like the NutriSense continuous a sugar tracker, also called a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to drop in the chat my discount code. So it's Simple Health 25, and the company is called NutriSense. And I actually wore it for 30 days. I think maybe 6 or 8 months ago, to double check my blood sugar, just to see and to use the tool. They also have nutritionists on track for you that can help support you during the time that you're wearing it, and they can help you understand what foods that you're eating. So to me, this is a super valuable tool that you can utilize to know right away where your sugar is. And again, it's called NutriSense. And my discount code is Simple Health 25. So the other one that I really like that you're starting to see advertised, or maybe I am because I do what I do, that I see it everywhere on Instagram and Facebook and all across the apps, is called the Lumen. And the Lumen is it's a little device about this big, and you actually breathe in and you hold, and then you breathe out. And it tells you if you're a sugar burner or a fat burner. And do you all remember yesterday I talked about flexible metabolism? This is what the Lumen is teaching you to do. So if you're constantly in a sugar burning state, we want to look to get you into a fat burning state. And you want your metabolism to be flexible. If you're in a carb state, then you want to go out and exercise and utilize your carbs, because there's more carbs or sugars in the body, I should say. That's a better terminology, glucose. And if you're fat burning and you're still, then and that's what you want to do. And you want to wake up more in a fat burning state. And then you want your glucose to actually be more active and be more available when you're working out, or when you need to go cut down that tree, or, go paddleboarding or kayaking. Like, you want that energy in the body to do what you want to do. So those are two tools that you could purchase if you wanted to purchase something. But I'm always trying to give you tools that you can do at home and ways to do it that fit your lifestyle. So those are the two tools that you can purchase. Again, a continuous glucose monitor or the Lumen. The other one was the smart scale we talked about, and then just physically measuring yourself, which came in through the email, those of you on the email list. If you're not on my email list, you can go to simplehealthnh.com and you can join my email list so that you get emails and handouts, so you know what we're talking about during these lives. So when it comes to sugar cravings, I want to talk about the brain again, because I want to say to you, it's not your fault if you've gotten into a sugar kind of habit. And I want to talk about how the brain drives these sugar cravings, because today is all about knowing where our sugar cravings are, measuring ourselves, and how to set you up for success um, and connect so that you can actually do this at home, or how to find me to work with me. But it's really the brain is responding to your sugar cravings. So let's talk about how the brain reacts to cravings. So dopamine is released when sugar consumption is at a higher level and it's triggered. And that's your pleasure and reward system. And it's released because you're feeling pleasure, and it reinforces the desire to consume more sugar. So that's dopamine. So let's talk about reward pathways. So the brain's reward pathways become activated when sugar is consumed, and that's creating a positive association with that pleasure of eating that sugar. Over time, this reward pathway can strengthen the cravings for sugar. Like, it can get harsher, and the brain is going to want to seek that reward. It's going to want to seek sugar. Do you remember throughout this whole challenge, we've talked about sugar being an addiction? It's an addiction like response. So, excuse me, the brain's response to sugar can mimic addictive behaviors. Sugar activates similar brain regions as drugs of abuse, and that's leading to cravings, tolerance, and even withdrawal symptoms. Like, we started this, like, are you having sugar cravings? Are you having withdrawal cravings from the sugar? So once we start to reduce the sugar and we eliminate it, it feels like an addiction, like we want more until it completely comes out of the body and it's gone. The other neurotransmitter that's released is serotonin. So sugar can temporarily, not long term, can increase serotonin levels in the brain, and that enhances your mood and provides a sense of, like, just feeling this feeling of well-being. So this temporary mood boost can contribute to more sugar cravings. And that's where you're seeking serotonin, is you're going to want to seek emotional comfort or relief. The last one is pleasure driven eating. How many people are emotional eaters on here? I know I have been an emotional eater. Getting that in check is so important. But unfortunately, pleasure eating is real out there, especially when it comes to sugar. So our brain pleasure centers can override the fact that we feel full and that we're satiated and no longer hungry. And that leads to an overconsumption of sugar-rich foods. And this response can make it challenging to curb your sugar cravings, and it can contribute to weight gain and negative health effects. So these are true. These are real. So that's why I say it's not your fault if you've gotten used to eating sugar. It's a challenge for us, because getting rid of that and letting it go can be challenging. The last one is stress response. So sugar can impact the brain's stress response system. It can temporarily, do you notice several of these are temporarily, alleviate stress by reducing your stress hormones like cortisol. We talked about cortisol on Monday. This stress release effect can actually lead to a coping mechanism for stress, further reinforcing cravings, so that the more that you eat it, you feel less stressed and then you want more. So it's so important, again, to realize that it's not your fault. And when we understand how the brain reacts to sugar and it can become addicted to it, now we can use the strategies that we talked about when we're eating something and we're tracking how we're feeling and we're tracking our emotions, or we're tracking our bowels, like we're tracking things so that we can reduce these cravings. And as you implement these small these small lifestyle challenges, as I said, you you are stacking one habit on top of another habit, and you're going to find alternative ways, right, in order to address these emotional needs. Like, how about go for a walk if you're feeling stressed? Call a loved one if you're stressed. Like, all these techniques, we get to figure out how to implement that would work for us and our life. And that's what's important because, again, I've said all along, you get to figure out what works for you and for your lifestyle. So, once we get a healthier, more balanced relationship to food, then we're smooth sailing. We're feeling better, right? Because now we're starting to feel like we're in control of our eating, in control of our emotions, and we've got our brain in a better place. So I want to ask you, so we've gone through all of these. We talked about how fat is so important. But one of the things that came up in some research for me today, and I want to put it out there, but what macronutrient and the type of macronutrient that two-thirds of adults and 95% of children are insufficient in, like their daily intake is not imperative for their brain. Does anybody know what that is? Because this is important. So many people come to me, and this is one thing right off the bat that I know is so important. Does anybody know what that is? Like, what is that important macronutrient? So again, 95% of children are deficient in it, and two-thirds of adults are deficient in it. No answers? It's omega 3s. We get omega 3s from the outside world. And so those omega 3s from an animal protein standpoint are going to be like halibut, salmon, sardines, quality tuna, because a lot of our tuna has mercury in it. Then some of the plant-based ones, fish oil is another one. Many people eat fish oil, especially myself. Plant-based ones are going to be like chia seeds and flax seeds. Like those are going to give you your essential fatty acids. But always remember the brain is 80% fat. So that's why fat is so imperative for thought processes and cognitive function. So now we're at discussing how can you maintain your sugar-free lifestyle for long-term success. That's what's going to be important here as we close out. Those of you that are working with me that are live, you know where to find me. But these points are so important. Practicing abundant health. In order to do that, you want to look at all the pieces that we talked about, whether it's changing the time you're eating more frequently, you're eating whole foods, nutrient dense foods, you're exercising, you're moving your body, you're hydrating, you're sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. Like that is important for abundant health and natural wellness. So when we start to put all these strategies and habits into our life, we start to feel better. Dealing with sugar cravings and temptations is the biggest one because that's what we talked about here over the last 6 days is detoxing your sugar. So again, we've talked about several ways that you can overcome these sugar cravings. We talked about how the brain is affected with sugar cravings, which is important for you to know because I always want to know it's not your fault, but we get to change it and we're 100% is possible 100% of the time. And if it's to be, it's up to me. So it's up to you to make these changes. And when you track your goals and you know where your emotions are around food, or you know you're always coming home starving, then maybe there's a snack that you put out that you know that's quality health. Or maybe before you leave your job or your office, before you get in the car, maybe you drink a glass of water, maybe you have nuts. I don't know what that looks like, but know where your triggers are and start to track habits on there that can change for you. Goal setting and continued success. So set a goal and go after it. There were many ways that we've talked about, right? And how do you goal set? Is it what do I want my waist hip ratio to be? What do I want my weight to be? What do I want to start slowly removing? Maybe I've had 5 processed foods every day. Maybe I begin to remove 3. You start to track that. And small baby steps, like we talked about, is what gets us success. So goal setting is so important. So those are the 3 major ones to kind of close up. And now I want to talk about How do you get to live a vibrant and balanced life? Because, of course, I'm a naturopathic doctor and I want to make sure and I get to show up for you when I do these challenges in lives to talk to you about really what is the concept of abundant health. And it's maintaining and achieving, or should I say, achieving and maintaining that well being in all areas of your life. So when you wake up in the morning, you know what your vision is, your feet hit the ground and you know what you're going after. And you stay in that trajectory, you're eating your quality foods, you're doing all the things that we talked about. And it goes beyond the absence of illness. So if we're living in our true purpose and in our true vision and we know our why, we're eating quality foods, we keep our emotions in check because that's what takes us out of our game, our ego and our emotions, and we are flourishing in areas of physical, mental, and emotional and social well being, this is what's going to help us stay in natural wellness and not end up with dis-ease or imbalanced wellness with diagnosis and symptoms that we now have to deal with. And when they become emergent, there's a time and a place for medicine. There's a time and a place for pharmaceutical drug, and there's a time and a place for herbs and nutrients and things like that. But keeping yourself as healthy as you can in that abundant health state, nourishing your body with your proper nutrition, having quality relationships, sleep, imperative. I can't talk about that enough. You can get a sleep tracker if you need to, like the Aura Ring is out there. Self-care and that positive mindset. It's all about finding harmony, happiness, and joy in all areas of your life so that you have vitality, joy, and fulfillment. Like we this week talked about removing sugar, but now I'm summing it up on how can you create whole health naturally so that you're not all of a sudden surprised. And one of the things that I want you to also remember in that abundant health piece is to get your values and your labs and to know where you're at. Don't just go at life and don't get your regular checkups, because it's important for us again to know where we're tracking. There's times when I've gone and got my labs done, and I'm like, why is my cholesterol elevated? That's interesting. And so then I get it down. But if I didn't know that and I kept going the way I was going, then it might have ended up in a much different place. So you want really this comprehensive approach to your healing. And it's that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. That's one of the reasons why I started the Join Pocket Doc, because so many people are like, how can we get connected to you? What can that look like? And it's taking into account um, all of this is approach, including physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, where you're going to get messages from me monthly. It's amazing. Like, this is what you all asked for. So this is what I'm serving you for. I don't create things that you don't need. And right now, being in the tough times that we're dealing with, not sharing what's happening out there, what we get to deal with and think about is ourselves and keep ourselves on track. So that's joinpocketdoc.com. And it's just going to be, it's so much fun. There's so many amazing people in there right now. It's going to be weekly messages. Once a month, I'll go live. And if nobody has questions, I'm going to show up and teach and educate. Like, what better way? But you get me once a month, and then I'll do a handout for a theme for that month to help you keep on track. Because we know what we track, and we know with accountability, that is actually what takes us upward. When we just kind of get stuck and we can do it ourselves and we're trying to survive on our own, it's that place and time. So yeah, that's joinpocketdoc.com. Please take a peek at it. It is just amazing, and I'm just so excited. So let's go back in here. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. So prevention and balance. If we're looking at preventing disease, we're doing all the things that we just talked about in order to have balance in our life. So we're doing a proactive approach, like we're looking at our labs. I would do it more than yearly so that it's not like out of the blue, this is what happened. And you're knowing where your weaknesses are or your dis-ease is coming into the body, then there are ways for you to have prevention. There's herbs, there's natural therapies, but again, it might require medication right now, but in the meantime, we can work on getting you off that medication once the body heals. The other key piece is empowerment and self-care. So I empower you to heal as a naturopath. I'm just guiding you. I'm the intuit to your healing. And so when I encourage patients to do self-care practices like the healthy eating, sleeping, your exercise, self-reflection, breathing, meditation, it can lead to improved well-being. Like, we get to take our health in our own hands. And when patients come to work with me, it's a cooperative approach. I'm guiding your body and showing you where the weaknesses are and the strengths so that you can take action. It's very individualized. So one of the things that I know is that no two patients in my clinic have the same treatment plan, and it would be the same for all of you. There might be some foods that are similar. Everybody's definitely eating whole food, nutrient rich, organic sort of diet. We're removing toxicity and mucus through infrared sauna, German foot baths, colon hydrotherapy. I do craniosacral, like, we're wanting to balance the body and remove toxicity, but it's individualized. And maybe I need to do IV therapy with you. I don't know unless you're a patient, but what I'm saying to you is when you have an individualized approach to healthcare and up to even knowing your genetics and where that's a challenge for you, then this is where we get to put the plan together that allows you to be successful. And at that point, that's going to enhance your quality of life, because I want to promote your physical vitality, your emotional resistance, your mental clarity, show up and have amazing relationships with a great sense of purpose and fulfillment. And that will create an overall well-being that allows you to thrive and experience a vibrant, healthier quality of life. And the long-term benefits I could list, and I'm sure you could all imagine. And it's, one of the main keys is fostering healthy relationships and reaching out to those that you love for support. And if you're feeling like you're not getting support from where you want to go, then reach out. Find somebody that can support you on this journey where you may be feeling like you're stuck, right? Because it just may be some tweaks that gets to happen, or just some love and support that can get you back on your trajectory to get to your vibrant, healthy wellness, and, emphasizing the importance of like healthy nutrition, physical exercise. So it's this comprehensive approach of everything that I talked about is what gives you vibrant health. So we also talked about, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, mindful eating, chewing your food slowly, that brain gut connection, using your senses, enjoying your food, making it colorful, having positive relationships with food, know when you're actually hungry or if it's emotional. That's going to help with your intuitive listening to your body's needs. Moving, like exercising, momentum, moving with a purpose. Like, I always tell patients, I don't mind what you do for physical activity, but find something that you love. The body is meant to be moving. Find activities you enjoy, because we want to keep that cardiovascular, that strength training, and that flexibility in check so that we have this overall well-being. Stress reduction, I just mentioned, meditation, breathing. Don't forget to breathe. How many of us forget to breathe? I know I do. Like, put me in the comments if you forget to breathe, or put breathe. Maybe that'll remind you to breathe. So when ways to I used to, a long time ago when I worked with a different naturopath in the time, I used to put these little sticky notes like on my computer, in my car, on my mirror when I brush my teeth, and it would say breathe, until I got in the habit of breathing. I probably should do that all again as I'm talking about this, because many of us just like we forget to breathe, and we need oxygen for all of our cells. So engaging in, like, maybe you're going for a walk in nature, maybe you're journaling. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but these are ways to get the mind body connected, which is so healing, which will allow for stress reduction. Sleep can, create many patients that don't sleep. I work with them on creating a sleep regimen. What does that look like? Maybe it's an hour before bed, you have some sleepy time tea. And maybe right before you go to bed, you need some protein or a fat. Maybe you need to not pick up your phone and read messages or get on the internet or anything like that. Maybe I don't know what it is, like, trigger you. Don't have like a heartfelt conversation or a stressful conversation before you go to bed, because you may have those ruminating thoughts all night. Like, really figure out what will put you in a relaxed sleep. Promoting relaxation and knowing what your stress triggers are so important. We were just talking about this, meaningful relationships, but create these positive social environments outside. Like, be connected outside and set realistic goals around surrounding yourselves with these uplifting, inspiring individuals. The healthy mindset we just talked about as well. So, the other piece that is not costly is self-care. I want you to think about, how can you prioritize self-care for yourself? And what does that look like? So think about self-care that prioritizes your mind and your body and your soul. Give time for relaxation, for your hobbies. And guess what? I'm going to say, if self-care requires going to a physician or a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine practitioner, an acupuncturist, please don't hesitate to do that. Like, that's going to be so important to know where your markers are. So seek professional guidance, or get in a community like joinpocketdoc.com, like we talked about. Get in a community that can support you, that you can hear messages that are weekly messages, Mondays and Fridays, that can keep you on track. And you can hear my voice, and I'm in your pocket messaging you. And then I'm going live with you once a month on a dedicated day, which you will know in advance. This is all so important. So lastly, in conclusion, with all of you amazing people on here, and I just so am grateful that you are showing up for yourself and realizing the importance of your self-care. You get to embrace your journey to abundant health. You get to take these small steps of well-being and commit to self-care for lifelong learning and a balanced life. Goal setting is so imperative for your continued success. And when you continue, because I know you already started, I'm tagging you that you already started to remove sugar. When you start to remove sugar and that acid from your daily nutrition, you become free, and you'll live a happier and healthier life all around. So remember, I don't want you to forget this, finding the right eating strategy for you. That sugar-free, process-free, whole nutrient-dense foods is your commitment. That's what I'm challenging you with, because I know you can do it. I know these small steps are going to take you to success as you track these. So as you implement these steps and utilize all the tools that we talked about, especially the tools we talked about today, you are going to be well on your way to achieve amazing health and wellness. And who doesn't want that with the summer starting? Like I said yesterday, this is Memorial Day weekend. You can start to practice what your health can look like. right now, starting, maybe you're going to a particular party. I don't know, maybe you're showing up for yourself or you're going on a hike and meeting individuals. Just pack your food or be aware of what's around you. But the bottom line that's so important is have healthy relationships, have joy, have laughter, and really be easy on yourself because this gets to be easy. And that's my motto. You get to have an amazing life. So before I close up this amazing challenge, I'm just so grateful for all of you showing up and taking health and prioritizing your health. Are there any questions at all that I can answer? Anything at all? We've got VIP, we've got Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Do you guys have any questions at all? Okay. I'll just wait a few minutes, but I'm just so shocked that like no questions up over the last 6 days are like coming into your heart. Don't hesitate to ask because I always say no question is off the table unless it's a diagnosis question. It's certainly I can't I'm not here to diagnose or treat you. I just want to share with you. You are so welcome, Jacqueline. I'm just so grateful that you keep showing up. I know you've been here every day, and just know it doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop here. We get to keep working and we get to keep thriving. All right, guys. So much love to you. Have a happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm just grateful for each and every one of you. And I know you can find whole health. And remember, joinpocketdoc.com. Like, take a peek at it. I know you're just going to love it because this is actually what you all asked for. It's what you all asked for. So I showed up and I gave. I'm sending you so much love. Have an amazing, amazing weekend. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye now. So much love.